Hello viewers, welcome to the Editorial Analysis by Drishti IAS. In this section, we regularly take editorials from various newspapers and news portals for a better understanding of various issues happening in India and around the globe. In this section, we first try to link our editorial with the UPSC syllabus, then we go analytical in order to understand some key points and at last some important concepts. Dear viewers, we truly hope that you like this initiative taken by Drishti IAS and your feedbacks are important for us. So kindly feel free to give your important feedbacks in the comment section. So without any further delay, let's commence our session.
Dear viewer, this video is available in Hindi as well. If you wish to watch it, please visit our Hindi YouTube channel, Drishti IAS. For your convenience, the link for this video in Hindi has been provided in the description below.
Today's editorial is taken from Hindustan Times, published on 1st of December 2020. The title of today's editorial is Donald Trump's Last Push in West Asia. If we try to link today's editorial with our UPSC syllabus, we can link it with GS Paper 2, which has sections that include polity, constitution, governance, and primarily with the section that includes international relations. Some key points from today's editorial. President Donald Trump has given up on foreign policy except in West Asia. His administration is presumed to have had a role in the assassination of Iran's top nuclear scientist last week. His son-in-law has flown to the Persian Gulf for one last diplomatic roundabout. Now, after the results of the presidential elections that took place in America, we can see the interest of Donald Trump towards his foreign policy is decreasing. But the only place where Donald Trump is even now focusing is in the foreign policy with reference to that of Middle East and West Asia. Last week, the Iranian media, it has accused the Donald Trump's administration to have some role in the assassination of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, an Iranian nuclear scientist. It was said by the Iranian media that the scientist had in fact been killed by a remote-controlled machine gun or weapons controlled by satellites. Mr. Trump's team is tying up the loose ends of what it sees as its great foreign policy movement, getting a slew of Gulf Arab nations to recognize Israel and concentrate an anti-Iran coalition. Now, what exactly Donald Trump and his associates they are trying to do is they are actually trying to build a group of the Gulf countries that they should first recognize Israel as an independent state and also to create a coalition that is completely anti-Iranian. Now, with reference to the editorial, we can see the geographical location of all the countries that we are talking about. The primary picture is focused on this country named as Iran, and here we can see this particular region of Israel, okay? And this reference of Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Iraq, Syria, all these countries have a significant role when it comes to the politics of West Asia and Middle East. Present scenario, West Asia's deepest geopolitical fault line no longer runs between Israelis and Arabs, but between Shia Persians and Sunni Arabs. See, there was a time when the entire Middle East, the Gulf countries, they were completely against Israel. But now that animosity, it has actually shifted. And now the real bone of contention lies between the Shia Persians and the Sunni Arabs. Now, when I'm talking about Shia Persians, it should be seen that in Iran, almost, if we talk about the demography, so we can say that there are almost 90% Shia Muslims and remaining there are 10% Sunnis, which include Kurds, Baluchs, Turkmans, etc. So initially, all these countries, all the Gulf countries, all the Middle Eastern countries, whether it is Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, any country, initially, all these countries were against Israel. But now, the things have changed. Now, all these Middle East countries, they have actually united against the increasing, the growing dominance of Iran. One more very important reason is in most of these Gulf countries, Middle East countries, the population is Sunni. They are Sunni Muslims. Whereas with reference to Iran, the majority population is Shia Muslims. So this also is one of the reasons why the situation between the Gulf countries and Iran is actually deteriorating day by day. It was the Gulf monarchies which applauded Mr. Trump ending the Iran nuclear agreement, initiated the Israel outreach, and are now working to ensure all this will be fait accompli for President-elect Joe Biden. Now, the most important thing which is to be seen here is all the Gulf countries, they actually appreciated the initiative that Donald Trump took when he ended the Iran nuclear agreement. And also, when Donald Trump actually invited all the countries to maintain, to in fact grow their relationship with Israel even stronger. Now, before we move ahead, it is quite important for us to see what exactly the Iran nuclear agreement was. So, the Iran nuclear deal, in fact, in 2015, Iran agreed to rein in its nuclear program. Deal struck with countries like US, United Kingdom, Russia, China, France, and Germany. Now, under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, under JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, Tehran agreed to significantly cut its stores of centrifuges, enriched uranium, and heavy water, all key components required for nuclear weapons. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action established a commission known as the Joint Commission. The Joint Commission, with the negotiating parties all represented, to monitor implementation of the agreement. Now, what exactly was the reason why Iran agreed to the deal? Now, the most simple answer to this question is because Iran had been hit with devastating economic sanctions by United Nations, United States, and the European Union that were estimated to have cost around tens of billions of pounds per year in lost oil export revenues. So this was the reason why Iran agreed to be a part of this agreement. Now, why exactly US has pulled out of the deal now? According to Donald Trump and the opponents to the deal, they say this deal is flawed because it gives Iran access to billions of dollars but does not address Iran's support for groups the US considers terrorists. For example, groups like Hamas, groups like Hezbollah. They note it also doesn't curb Iran's development of ballistic missiles and that the deal phases out by 2030. Now, all the opponents to the deals, they say Iran has lied about its nuclear program in the past. So this exactly was the nuclear agreement, and America has actually ended it up. Now, for the President-elect Mr. Biden, foreign policy supports the Arab-Israeli rapprochement. Again, the foreign policy of Mr. Joe Biden will be focusing upon strengthening the relation between the Arabs and the Israelis. But it may be frosty towards Saudi Arabia and includes plan to resurrect the Iran nuclear agreement. However, we can say that the relationship towards Saudi Arabia will be a bit frosty, and also it includes the plans to resurrect the nuclear agreement signed with Iran. The last won't be easy. See, this part of resurrecting the Iran nuclear agreement, this won't be easy because Iran has 12 times more low enriched uranium than the original agreement allowed. See, Iran right now has almost 12 times more uranium, more nuclear fuel as it should have according to the original agreement. So we can see that right here that how Iran is not following up to the agreements. Also, Washington has a zero diplomatic credibility. Now, if we talk about future, it is quite important for us to see several aspects here, especially with reference to India. Now the stakes are high. The Arab street has no love for Israel. See, we all know that the reason why the Middle East countries, the Gulf countries, the Arab countries, and other countries like Egypt, etc., with whom Israel have continuously been in a state of war, or there always have been tension of Israel with all these countries. Even today, these countries are actually focusing upon their relationship with Israel not for peace, but the benefits, but the trade development that will happen, but the benefits which they will receive from Israel. That's the major idea why all these countries are going towards Israel, and they are actually calling for friendship. There is no such love. Okay, it's just business and trade. That's it. Iran's informal empire remains intact but broke. See, if we talk about Iran, yes, the situation in aspect to the world media, it shows that yes, Iran is very intact, very strong as of now. But we know that deep inside there are several issues where the Iran governance has to take care of several decisions which they have taken in the past. Okay, there are many people who are against with the ideas, with the ideology. So we cannot say that the Iranian empire is absolutely intact. There are several issues, but the situation is just like China. Nothing comes out. Outsiders must tread this minefield carefully. India has even more reasons to avoid a regional role and continue to maintain a set of bilateral relationships. See, right now, India is not in a position that it can choose sides. The best thing for India is to maintain a healthy relationship with both the parties. Now, if we talk about what benefits do we have both from the Gulf countries, from the Middle East countries, and Israel. See, economic cooperation. Now, if we talk about economic cooperation, the bilateral merchandise trade between India and Israel, it stood at almost $5.02 billion, excluding defense. Defense was not part, okay? Exports from India were ranging around 3.06 billion US dollars, whereas the import to India from Israel were around 1.96 billion USD. So see, India is in a state of benefit. Okay, the diamond trade constitutes more than 53% out of the bilateral trade that takes place between India and Israel. 53% contribution is through the diamond trade. India is Israel's third largest trading partner in Asia. India is the third largest trading partner of Israel after China and Hong Kong. If we talk about investments, some of the major investments from Israel in India, it includes renewable energy, telecom, real estate, water technology, also setting up R&D centers or production units in India. Also, India's investment in Israel are mostly in drip irrigation, pharmaceuticals, wastewater treatment, IT, that is information technology, etc. Also, both the countries are cooperating each other in the field of agriculture. If it speak about the military and strategic cooperation, India's arms trade with Israel has reached almost $600 million in the year 2016, making Israel the second largest source of defense equipment for India after Russia. Both the countries have a common aspiration to fight the menace of terrorism, okay, and it has actually led to the enhancement of defense cooperation. So these are some of the benefits which India has with Israel. Now, if we talk about the Middle East, India too have a very good relationship with Middle East as well. Now, if we speak about every country, okay, if we speak about India's relations with Iran, they are on upswing as we look. Okay, for example, with the development of international north-south transport corridor, also with the development of the Chabahar port. Iraq's economic relationship with India has been among Iraq's top three global economic partnerships in the recent years, and it is growing rapidly. Iraq is the second largest oil supplier to India. Also, India, in order to boost maritime cooperation with the Persian Gulf countries, India has sent ICGS, ICGS Vijit, a Vishwast class offshore patrol vessel, to a four-nation friendly visit, including Bahrain. Okay, the relations with India and Saudi Arabia, they have improved over the years as the number of Indian pilgrims performing Hajj in Saudi Arabia has increased to 2 lakh every year. The Saudi prince expected that Saudi investment in India may reach $100 billion in the next 2 years. When it comes to the United Arab Emirates, in the financial year 2018-2019, India and UAE bilateral trade grew by over 20%, and it reached a figure of around 60 billion USD between India and UAE. Okay. India also conducts a variety of armed force exercises with Middle East country. For example, one of the best examples can be the Al-Nagha 3. The Al-Nagha. This can be a question for your preliminary examination. The Al-Nagha 3 is the third in the series of the bilateral joint exercise between India and Oman. Okay, so India has to maintain a situation where India is not taking any side, and India is actually keeping its relationship with both the Middle East countries as well as with Israel absolutely perfect. However, Pakistan is actually struggling now. The situation of Pakistan in the present world geopolitics is actually quite troublesome, because Pakistan time and again has actually said that it is completely against UAE's stand to approve Israel. The United Arab Emirates has actually banned visa for Pakistan and others who opposed normalization of ties with Israel. Recently, United Arab Emirates, they have stopped issuing visas to citizens of 13 countries, mostly Muslim countries, and they include Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, etc. As the West Asian politics become ever more cutthroat, Islamabad may have to choose between ideological sanctity and economic stability. See, Pakistan's agenda has always been focused upon religion. Pakistan has always chosen religion as the part in order to convey the foreign policy which it has. But now is the time that Pakistan has to choose whether they want economic stability or whether they want to go with the ideological pattern which they have been following all along. Either way will be a New Delhi's advantage. And in both the ways, whatever stand Pakistan takes, the situation will always be favorable with reference to India. So viewers, this was with today's editorial analysis. A question that can be framed with reference to today's editorial analysis is: West Asia is important to India, not just for oil imports, but also for many other factors like that of the presence of Indian diaspora. Comment in 250 words. So viewers, I hope you liked today's editorial analysis. Thank you very much.